So in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is taking you through my pressure washer setup, which I use for car detailing. Now I have tried a few different pressure washers in the past and I have made quite a few changes to this setup over a couple of years and I'm pretty happy with it how it is now. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to take you through what I'm using and my recommendations really. So I'm of course going to start off with the main piece of equipment here, and that is the pressure washer itself. So I am using a Carscope K10 and this is a total stock version, which basically just has this little black box on the side, and it means that when you pull the trigger, the motor kicks in, and when you release the trigger, it's not on, so it just saves a little bit of power for me there. I have had this machine for a good couple of years now and it is absolutely fantastic. It hasn't skipped a beat. It's really pretty easy to maintain. I have done a few oil changes on this to keep it working nicely, but it's a really sort of reliable piece of equipment. Now, the only disadvantage here is that it is expensive. You're looking at about 800 quid for this. But if you're using it in a professional setting, or you just don't want cheaper domestic models, then this is definitely worth looking at. In terms of the specs for it, it is a 10 litre per minute pressure washer, which is a really high flow rate, so that means I get really good snow foam, and the pre-wash stage is nice and easy. The dirt comes off pretty easily with this. And then in terms of the pressure, it's 120 bar working pressure, which isn't particularly high, but it's the flow rate here which really makes it quite effective. I don't find that I need a higher pressure than this. I've used it on the driveway, various different situations, and yeah, it's never let me down. I do have an individual review on this pressure washer as well as an 18 months update on it too, so I'll pop links to both of those videos in the description if you are interested in one of these, and of course you can check those out. If however you are looking at this thinking that is silly money for a pressure washer and you don't want to be spending that, then I do have a review as well on an Arva Go P55 model, which is a pretty similar size to this but much cheaper and much more suitable for a domestic market. So again, I'll pop a link to that in the description. That I use as a backup for this, but as I said, I haven't really needed a backup because this just doesn't skip a beat. Now, if I take you up a bit higher, this is where I have my hose reel. So this is an MTM hose reel, and it is actually made for a 15 metre hose, but I've got a 20 metre hose on it, partly because this Carscope hose that I've got on here is actually quite narrow. It's only a 1/4 inch hose, so 20 metres fits on here just fine. So obviously the main disadvantage of having this Carscope K10 is that it doesn't have an integrated hose reel. So I went and got this as it just makes my life a lot easier when it comes to setting up and packing away. I do have a video on this on the second channel showing the installation process and a few issues I did have when I purchased it, as if you have the Carscope hose, basically it is a bit of a faff due to this sort of collar we've got on the pressure washer hose here. So if you are interested in one of these, then it might be worth having a look at that video. I just have the standard Carscope hose on here. I didn't really feel a need to upgrade it. It is a really good quality hose. It lies flat and it's nice and flexible. I went for the longest option that they had, which was 20 metres, partly so I can keep the pressure washer as far away from the car as possible when I'm filming so you don't hear the motor, but you can get 10 and 15 metre options of this. What you will see on the end here is a little bit of an upgrade. So this is the quick release for my pressure washer gun. So basically the Carscopes have an M22 fitting, so you have to kind of thread them in, which takes a little bit of time. So basically with my pressure washer gun, I can just pop that in and it's really nice and easy to set up. And then I also have this here, which is the Carscope hose plug. This again is from Carscope, and it stops the annoying dribble you get when you've wound up your hose. So yeah, definitely worth investing in if you've got one of these hose reels, because that dribble you get is a bit annoying and does make the garage a little bit messy. Moving over here, we have the pressure washer gun and nozzles. Obviously you can see they're on this bracket here. This is from my new brand called Detail Locker. If you follow me on Instagram or on the second channel, then you might have seen this, but some of the wall mounts you can see here are from this brand, so I will pop a link to it in the description if you are interested. But on here I am rocking the Carscope Cobra short trigger. I've got a turbo nozzle from Carscope and then a 25 and a 40 degree nozzle also from Carscope. Now the Carscope Cobra short trigger is a pretty new one to me. I've not actually had this that long. Prior to this I've been using the MTM SGS35. I do still use both, but I am testing this one out at the moment. So the main kind of upgrade of this is it has this push lock fit in here, so you just push nozzles right in the end, you don't have to pull this collar back. So that is pretty cool. The turbo nozzle is really handy for cleaning carpeted wheel arches. It's my first time using a turbo nozzle, but they are really effective, so definitely worth having a look at if you are struggling with carpeted wheel arches. And then the 25 and the 40, I do switch between these, however generally I'm using the 25 degree nozzle most of the time. This is good for sort of rinsing after you've done a contact wash, but for a bit more strength on the pre-wash and for cleaning wheels I do find this a little bit better. The Carscope nozzles do have this kind of rubber guard around them, and they just feel a lot more substantial and a better quality compared to the sort of cheap little plastic ones you get with most pressure washer guns. They have a much more accurate orifice and fan angle, so I am really, really glad I upgraded to these. So if I move you a little bit higher here, I have my foam cannon. So this is on one of the detail locker brackets as well, the quick release one, so just nice and easy to sort of store on the wall. At the moment, I have the MJJC foam cannon SV3 on here. However, there are quite a few foam cannons that I do actually alternate between. So Carscope foam Zuka foam cannon, which is a pretty new one, the MJJC Pro V2, and also the MTM PF22.2 as well is a really good option. In terms of sort of picking my favourite foam cannon, it is actually really, really hard to decide. I do like this one, partly because it's a little bit newer to me, I do like that about it. My MJJC Pro V2 is looking a little bit tatty now. In terms of the best between those two, I do have a comparison video on that. The MJJC S does have a weaker bottle, so if you're prone to dropping things, then that one's not going to be quite as good, but it's easier to see the measurements. It really kind of depends on your preference with that. The MTM PF22, I have the actual wide mouth conversion kit on that now, so it's the 22.3, but that is a really good one too. It's a little bit more expensive, but both the MJJC and MTMs are really good. The main sort of difference between them in actual practical sense is you typically get thicker foam from using an MJJC, but that really isn't the whole story. The reason being, or most of the reason being, is that the MJJC foam cannons actually drain the bottle a lot faster than the MTM one. So basically it gives you the illusion that you're getting thicker foam, but actually it's just because you're using more product. So it really depends, do you want to fill your foam cannon up more often, or do you want to put more product to water in your foam cannon to begin with? It kind of depends which you prefer out of those two. The Carscope foam Zuka is one that I've been testing more recently. It's the more expensive of all of them, but it does have a nice upgrade like stainless steel, and it is really, really good quality. It does have the better bottle compared to this one. So I am potentially going to do a comparison video between those four at some point. If that's something that you'd be interested in, please let me know and I'll make sure I'll make it. All of the pieces of equipment and the brackets that I'm using here are going to be linked in the description below. If you have found this video useful, then it would be brilliant if you could drop it a like, and thanks very much for watching.